Friend of the pod, Catalina Bush, said in her first response to my list, your list is worse than Evan's because I've not heard of more of these movies. And then saw my second posting and said, no, wait, Ratatouille slaps. Your list is better than Evan's.
Get over yourself, Kat.
Hello and welcome to Expected Own Goals. The famine in Ireland this time is shots. I am your host, Eric Morgan.
Too soon! 175 years later. Yeah, normally on international breaks, we would kick main feed down the road so we could have all friendlies to discuss as a whole, but it's a special week. The Euros kick off on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And also the Women's Africa Cup of Nations kicks off on Saturday, and the Copa America Femenina kicks off next week. So we're gearing up into full-on international mode. So while we would like to do a full coverage of Wednesday's friendly against Canada, which might actually be an interesting game,
Yep.
we're going to have to...
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll have to squeeze it in with other stuff. So today we're just going to be looking at the two friendlies against Ireland.
Yeah, if this episode comes in a little short, it's because we will be polluting your feed anyway.
It's true.
So don't you worry. There will be plenty of XOG. Also, it's just a face melting amount of soccer going on. Everything you've listed, plus if you're into Broso, you've got the Club World Cup, the Gold Cup,
and MLS.
Like, it is too much. Dare I say, too much soccer.
It's a bit too much soccer for my taste, yeah. But thankfully, I'm not as much of an American Broso dude as you can be, or other people can be.
Or so. You just don't care for the bros.
Not the biggest bro fan.
Yeah. You're light on the Broso.
Yeah.
Let's get into this particular set of friendlies. And I suppose there's almost nothing to say tactically about what happened in these games.
Dear God, no. I mean, here's the other thing. So USA versus Ireland is enough of a talent disparity already.
For sure.
Then you take out what would probably be most of the first choice starting 11 because they play their club soccer in Europe, and so they get the summer off, or they're injured, they're on maternity leave, what have you. And that's still a wide talent disparity. But then you go and take Denise O'Sullivan and Katie McCabe out of Ireland's setup.
Yeah, it's rough.
Then this is just sort of what you're going to get.
Yeah, this was the U.S. women's national team's B/C teams, I kind of feel like.
Yeah.
Getting a run out against an opponent that, as the proof was in the pudding, against an Ireland team that registered one technical shot on target per Y-Scout in game one, and ended the two friendlies with 0.2 XG.
Oh, it wasn't on target. It was just a shot.
Oh, yes, right. It was blocked.
Yeah. Kate, we're going to get to like all the debutantes, but it is worth noting Claudia Dickey literally had nothing to do.
Yeah.
Faced not a single shot on target and did not have to kick it long or pass it out of pressure a single time.
Yeah, well, easiest clean sheet she'll ever have.
Yeah, no sweeping actions, like literally had to make a short pass to Naomi Girma 18 times in that game.
Yeah, we learned absolutely nothing about Claudia Dickey in these friendlies. We learned barely more about Mandy McGlynn.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably fine. It'll be interesting to see who gets the start against Canada. I don't think it will be Angelina Anderson.
Unlikely.
Who do you think it is now? Just if you had to guess.
I mean, maybe let's back up a second and just talk more generally, like what purpose do these friendlies serve, which is something, it's a common refrain when we talk about the U.S. in games like this, but for nothing else, it's just opportunities for the coaching staff to see how these players perform in this environment in a game setting rather than just in training, and to get reps to familiarize themselves with each other and develop some unit cohesion that way. So if that's what ultimately these will yield, I would maybe say I'd just rather see Claudia Dickey in that game just to see her, because McGlynn's had chances against top competition up to this point. So why not see what Dickey can do?
And in its own way, you have answered my question. I suspect we will also see Claudia Dickey in the Canada game. It's possible we'll see them split a half.
Which wouldn't be bad either.
Yeah, which wouldn't be bad either. But Yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk players that we think really improved their stock.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the score lines.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say beyond 4-0, 4-0.
And then those are underpinned by an aggregate 6.8 to 0.2 XG split.
Yeah, basically, and I'll accept that at the, when you put up 6.8 non-penalty XG, 8 is not a surprising goal total.
No.
Frankly, when you put up that much XG over 2 games, 10 wouldn't be a surprising goal total.
No.
You just need some mild overperformance at that point. Yeah, the U.S. were very much good for it. Both games, I think there were common themes that you saw. Alyssa Thompson essentially dominating the wing, and then Emma Sears kind of just running it back, though I would say slightly less effectively, only because Alyssa Thompson was so effective.
Yeah.
And then you had what felt like really fluid build-up play through the midfield also happening, and often really front foot support from the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Emily Sams, who was deputized in a right back position in game 2, looked good. But again, hard to say that anybody did anything of great value in terms of their long-term standing on this team in these games. Nobody hurt themselves.
Right. Yeah. Again, which is what you kind of expect. Like Dickey, like the speed at which Dickey persistently underhit a lot of those short passes out of the back, and it didn't matter. And that's sort of what paints the picture of like none of the performance you can really use as a judgment tool unless you really want to drill down and say these very specific kind of minute level soccer actions tell you something predictive. And I'm not sure that they do. So we just have to say, well, what else is interesting about these sets of fixtures? 5 more debuts, you know, which is significant. That brings the total under Hayes since she took over officially at the end of May last year to 24 first caps under her tutelage.
Yeah, and those 5 debuts, basically none in attack. Yeah. Sam Meza, the only midfielder. It was almost exclusively defensive debuts.
Yeah. Izzy Rodriguez more or less functioned as a left winger, even though she wasn't playing it. Lily Real too.
And got a really nice cleanup goal.
Yeah.
You know, great for Izzy Rodriguez. But again, even for Izzy Rodriguez, who gets her name on the score sheet, I don't think this changes her fortune a lot. It probably is so much more dependent on what she's doing in practice in camp and how she's competing against her own teammates.
Yeah.
In closed sessions.
Yeah.
Like whether she's back will not have anything to do with her ability to score in this game.
Right. So what else is notable? I mean, Rose Lavelle and Croy Bethune back in the number 10 pool, which I think was actually quite significant just to get them game minutes. I liked the way Bethune was combining with Emma Sears at times in game 2. I thought she looked pretty decent, even if a lot of her passes didn't come off. She was trying a lot of one-touch stuff.
Yeah.
Just to gain her sharpness. So
I thought the sort of Bethune-Moultrie tandem was really interesting, pushing Olivia Moultrie deeper as an Emma Hayes move. I think, particularly against a team that's going to shell and shut up shop almost immediately, almost inexplicably. Like what the purpose of these games were for Ireland is subject of a completely different podcast. But I think what Moultrie was able to do, along with Bethune, and along with Lavelle, was provide like really different options and really different looks about how to progress the ball into the box, and quite effectively.
Yeah.
It's really good to see a healthy Rose Lavelle, and when you have a healthy Rose Lavelle against a team like Ireland, that's where dribbling is going to help you as an alternate way to progress, and it did.
Local Cincinnati crowd got their money's worth for 5 minutes.
Yeah, for 5 minutes for 5 low pressure minutes of Rose Lavelle. Yeah, is there anything else? I suppose I want to point out that Lynn Biondolo playing a more traditional striker role was a nice adjustment. I would rather see her there than Ali Sentner, who I think was, bar the assist she laid off in the first game, not particularly effective playing through the middle for long stretches.
No, and then was barely present in her substitute appearance in game 2.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that it's dead rubber at that point.
Sure. But
yeah, even with Ali Sentner, who we have shown hesitation about, I don't think she did anything to hurt herself here.
Yeah.
I think maybe she convinced Emma Sears that, like, maybe she convinced Emma Hayes that playing her as a sort of false nine might not be the best path forward. But beyond that, again, it's just really hard to learn anything. But the starting lineup next game will be interesting.
Yeah. And, Allie Sentner, every shot was in the box.
No, credit to her there.
So,
yeah.
If you want to talk about micro actions that really do seem to be on an evolutionary path,
Uh-huh.
you can at least point to that.
Yeah, and she played a cutback for a goal. Cutbacks are hugely valuable.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. scored a number of goals. Moultrie to Ryan on a cutback.
Yeah.
Sears is a cross, but it functions sort of as a cutback to Biondolo. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, there was value here.
Yeah. You see anything out of Jordan Bugg or Sam Meza? Caught your eye?
I mean, Sam Meza lost the ball a couple of times and quickly recovered, which is sort of her MO.
Yeah.
But again, it's Ireland. I don't know.
You just have way too much time to correct your mistakes.
Yeah. If you want to make an argument in favor of Sam Meza, it is that Sam Meza reminded us yet again why Corbin Albert is surplus to requirements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At worst, Sam Meza is as good as Corbin Albert.
Correct. And I think given the two seasons, they've just both one that Sam Meza is currently putting up and one that Corbin Albert just finished.
Yeah.
I think Meza is the form player as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sam Coffey did Sam Coffey shit again and again.
Yeah.
Had the lay of the land, scored another goal.
Yeah.
Just rolled back the years and reminded us that at one point she was a striker.
Yeah. Yasmin Ryan looked good on the left.
Yeah.
Playing on the left instead of the right.
I thought she was absent for periods of the game, but then steps up and shows up in the right place to score a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're really stretching whatever there is to say about.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's just try and see if we can dig in and find what else might be interesting. I mean, this is a very young team, which we're not surprised by. I mean, the U.S. in their press release said that in the second game, if you took out Lynn Biondolo, it was just a hair over 4 caps per starter in the rest of that 11, which is incredible. I mean, it was the second least capped 11 overall, even with Biondolo in it, since 2001.
Yeah, these are really, really healthy sea change, tide changing things. And obviously, that won't be the case as, the World Cup roster will not have, an average of sub 10 caps per player on, I doubt we will see that.
Yeah.
Mostly because these players who have been brought in will subsequently get a lot more caps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for a team that lacks experience and that hasn't really played together as an 11 like that.
Yeah.
Very much. Very fluid and very good at quickly recovering the ball whenever they lost it.
It's kind of incredible to discover that was Lynn Biondolo's first time as captain of the U.S.
Yeah.
And then you think about it, it's oh yeah, that kind of tracks. I mean, she's been playing in the periods of the Carly Lloyds and the Alex Morgans and the Lindsay Heapses of the teams. There's not too many opportunities, and this time she was just a senior player.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, cool for her to get that.
Becky Sauerbrunn, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. There were a lot of candidates for, it's funny to think of Lynn Biondolo as like the wily leader veteran, but of course that's what she is at this point.
That's what she is. Yeah, I mean, this is the 600th win in the program's history, which I think I'd rather not see them get to 1,000 wins anytime soon, because the reason they have 600 wins is just because of the lack of quality competition and so many friendlies that they've played over the course of their history. So it's cool to see that, but I also think it's much more important for the program that we're getting, a 4 caps per starting 11 in one of these games.
It took them a little under 40 years to get 600 wins. It would be great if it took them far more than 40 years to get another 600.
Yeah, and not because they're not winning a lot, but just that they're playing fewer and fewer games where those wins are gimmies.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
Yeah, they're again, it is hard to schedule friendlies.
Sure, especially in a window like this where almost everybody of quality is in an international tournament at the moment.
And Ireland was the odd one out, not at the Euro and available.
And Australia and Japan decided they wanted to play other people.
Yeah, I get that.
Japan played Spain. Probably more useful for Japan to do that at
for sure. So Ireland was the de facto competition for these two friendlies, and Yeah, it just isn't that close.
Yeah. But it's also, I mean, to talk about logistics, it's also might behoove U.S. soccer to think more broadly about how they do these things because, you know, Carla Ward, head coach of Ireland, after the game on Sunday said like she had players asking to be taken off after like 22 or 23 minutes. And that goes along with some of the, you know, the jipes and the japes that American soccer fans are throwing toward some European teams in the men's Club World Cup for having their benches be in the locker room until they get their number called. And they're not worthy of our derision, quite frankly. I mean, TQL Stadium in Cincinnati has hardly any shade cover in it, and you are in Cincinnati, Ohio,
in summer,
in the end of June on it, and at a 3 p.m. local kickoff with very few clouds in the sky, and therefore you are playing in direct sunlight in 86-degree Fahrenheit, extreme humidity weather for 90 straight minutes. It's not an accident this sport was built for the autumn to spring months, you know? Like, these are just not good conditions to be playing in.
Yeah, I mean, I think on some level, Europeans are particularly ill-suited to these kinds of conditions.
Well, yeah.
And I understand.
Rose Lavelle gets brought on in the 85th minute because that's not a skin tone that handles the sun super well.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think TQL has pretty normal cover
for an American soccer stadium.
Probably even more cover than, say, Dick's Sporting Good Park in Colorado, which has essentially none.
Yeah, but that only serves to underscore the point that there's sort of a problem here. You know,
yeah.
Like in Brazil, a country that is notoriously hot and humid, well, they know that about themselves. And you go to the Maracanã, and there's not a lot of exposure to the sunlight at the Maracanã.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I actually feel like if we want to sort of extrapolate here a little bit about the two host cities, good crowds in both are like Denver is getting an NWSL team. Apparently there are already 12,000 season ticket deposits for it. That looks like it'll be a hit. Cincinnati, we've speculated, is potentially a movable location for Louisville or a location for an expansion team.
Yeah.
Maybe on its own.
23, 24,000.
25.
Yeah.
And yeah. Those are good, healthy crowds for meaningless friendlies. So at least the American fans showed out. Let's talk about the left back position. I think that is kind of the only really big question mark about where we will find a starter.
Yeah.
Right back has Emily Fox pretty locked in, and there's a question of depth behind there.
Which is
and
why
then there are log jams at every other position.
Yeah, and like Avery Patterson and Giselle Thompson have gotten their fair share of playing time at right back, even when Emily Fox is in the lineup. So you know that that's something Emma Hayes is thinking about, of just increasing fullback depth more broadly. But yeah, I mean, at left back, it is funny to think that for all of the conversations we've had about rotation at that position and not knowing who the future is, like, since the Olympics, like Crystal Dunn-Jen and Iswanger have still taken up the majority of minutes at those spots. But then as you kind of like demarcate out the time windows
by the way, both of whom are probably pretty low totem at this point.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you watch the evolution since the October window, and Dunn and Iswanger have just gotten progressively less and less playing time, to the point where now, if you just look at the most recent 4 friendlies, the last couple of windows, it's 4 different players getting full 90s in 4 different games.
So why don't we do this as a little thought exercise and just talk left back. Let's rank from likeliest to least likely to be on the U.S. women's national team in 2027 based on sort of performances since the Olympics.
Okay.
So who right now is bottom of your list, least likely? And I'll pick one after you.
Well, I mean, this is an easy one because we already know it to be true, is Casey Kruger.
Yeah.
You know, because she's already said that she and Hayes have had a conversation that she's no longer going to be in the program going forward. So
yeah, and that's tough, and I don't necessarily agree with it given her positional flexibility.
Yeah,
but that's real. I'd say the next least likely is probably Alyssa Melanson, who just kind of,
she got a cap back in October during that 3-game window.
Yeah, and
that's been it.
It doesn't seem like Hayes has a strong desire to see more from her.
No.
So unless her club form dramatically improves,
Yeah.
and
And she's had a bit of a step back this season.
yeah, I think she's the next least likely. Who do you got after that?
I guess it's Niswanger, just because like she has not been called in since April.
Yeah,
I mean, anything can happen. I mean, she is a known quantity, so if she just starts getting more games at Arsenal and starts building up her form again, it would be very easy to just slot her back in. But it's also rather significant that she has not been considered in the last couple of windows. So I think it's probably her, because again, she's just continually had defensive struggles despite the very flashy attacking qualities that she always shows.
yeah. Look, if she establishes herself at Arsenal, I think the European inclined Emma Hayes will give her another look. But right now, I think that's the right ranking for her.
Yeah, and there's just not a path forward for more minutes at Arsenal right now.
Yeah, I think my next least likely, and this is starting to get a little more speculative because I think we're now only talking about players who stand some chance, is Crystal Dunn, just because of the age and left back is a demanding athletic position, and in a short tournament, I suppose if Crystal Dunn makes the 2027 World Cup squad, it will be because she is so positionally flexible as opposed to because she's the clear starting left back.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this in the last international window. We've talked about it a lot with her, is that if you're going to take a mid-30s U.S. women's national team veteran with positional flexibility, I would rather take Emily Sonnet.
Sure, agreed.
Than Dunn. And Dunn hasn't seen game action with the U.S. since the first friendly against China in the last window. She's not here, obviously, because she plays in Europe, but is she really offering you more at that spot than the next three we're going to talk about? I don't think so, especially because there are two others we can also chat about who give
the next three, the next five. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, there are two in addition to the main three who can give you positional flexibility where there's just no point in you're not gaining anything besides experience really with somebody like Dunn.
Yeah, and if you want to read the tea leaves, Lynn Biondolo getting a captaincy suggests that Emma Hayes may look other directions for senior leadership.
Yeah, and this won't become any clearer to us until the fall in the next international window, because that's when everybody will be back and available. So then there are 5 who have gotten game time at left back since the October window last year. Let's start with talking about Avery Patterson and Giselle Thompson, who are right backs. The majority of their time with the U.S. have been at the right back position, but they have seen a little bit of time on the other side of the field, and I think just give you that positional flexibility you might want.
I think right now, if you wanted to rank them, I think Giselle Thompson is probably lower on this list. Avery Patterson, the goal helps her, but also Avery Patterson proving to be a true two-wing player.
Mm-hmm.
And being very two-footed and frankly, providing, they're both good dribblers and good distributors of the ball. But Avery Patterson, this is where the goal probably does count for something, having the knack to get in the box and score.
Mm-hmm.
And just all of the different sort of like forward options she gives you, I think probably pushes her above Giselle Thompson for me right now.
Yeah.
Avery Patterson continues to have a solid season in Houston going, and which is not the easiest place to record a solid season, and really good performances with the U.S. women's national team. Good performances that I think are earning her some goodwill and trust from Emma Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, she was an early sub in game 1, but she still got the start and was lively on that flank. So, yeah, I mean,
I suspect she'll start against Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. So then it comes down to the 3 dedicated left backs who have gotten full 90s in the last couple of windows. We talked about Carrie Abella a lot last time. I think she's your best defensive left back option.
I think Carrie Abella, I think all 3 of these players, and it's tough right now. I think Abello, Rio, Rodriguez, Patterson all stand a decent chance of being on the plane to Brazil. I think guaranteed two of those names will probably be, like, two of those names will be on, well, I don't even know if I feel that. One of those names will be on the plane to Brazil.
Depends on just how much Hayes favors Patterson and Giselle Thompson. Because if she really likes one of them enough to take him, why take an extra left back?
Yeah, right. So I think Patterson is probably leading this entire pool for likelihood to be on the plane to Brazil. That said, Patterson is leading that pool probably as a backup right back and not as a dedicated starting left back right now. Right now, I think you defer to league form and defensive quality, and I suspect Cariabello is leading right now at left back as like your likeliest.
Does she get the game against Canada?
I think that would be an appropriate use of her. I think that is no question the most defensively challenging,
right? For sure,
appearance she'll have.
But it's interesting. I mean, I thought Real in particular put in a pretty good defensive shift in the rare occasions that it was actually required of her.
Sure.
She got stuck in. She made a lot of interceptions in key areas. She put in effort in a context where you could get away with not putting in a lot of effort.
Again, I think Real's big thing is offering you real positional flexibility.
Yeah.
The option to play left back or left-sided center back. We've talked about like maybe Sam Staub getting another look to be that left-footed rangy passer, but Lily Real fits that profile.
But then again, we don't know what Hayes thinks about that.
Yeah.
Real didn't get any time in central defense in the games she started. We don't know if maybe she could come in as a backup center back in the Canada game, and we don't know how much time she's spending in training, like working with the other center back core. So,
totally.
We saw Emily Sam's roll out at right back, but that felt more like an experiment rather than a certainty. Because again, players with positional flexibility feels like there's maybe better options, not necessarily specifically for the left back, left-sided center back corridor. Because we just don't know what Lily Real is like at this level, at that spot of the field, even though she did it at UCLA plenty. So, I don't know.
Lily Real has, I think the best thing she has going for her right now is that she is young and that she is she's immediately made the step up to the NWSL level.
Of these three, she is the youngest.
Yeah, almost effortlessly has made that step.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Getting the call in for Izzy Rodriguez is a huge step and long overdue. And coming on and playing as an integral part of the support attack system and getting a goal. I don't know what she could have done to further herself beyond what she did.
She was incredibly impressive as a passer in, again, a context where you could probably get away with not having to be so. I mean, she challenged herself. Maybe I can't say this for sure if this was like self-directed or if Hayes told her to do it or if it just came about by instinct. But every single cross/cutback that she made was one touch.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't need an extra touch. She didn't need time to set herself up. She didn't need time to take the vision. She just popped off.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if we're looking at sort of like the molecular soccer actions level of what occurred in these two games as a way to determine, the fine margins here, her passing, I think, was not only the most impressive, but also had the most potential to be developed at this level. And that's something that we've been screaming for a year now. Like, this is what Izzy Rodriguez gives you. So I like the idea of Izzy Rodriguez getting another bunch of caps here in this spot.
My question, and I think maybe where I agree with everything you've said there, I think the other thing that Rodriguez offers you is a left-footed dead ball set piece taker.
For sure.
Her and Moultrie lined over the ball felt like, oh, right.
Yeah.
That is
worst of both worlds for the opposition.
Yeah, you really don't know who the priority is there.
Right.
Is there a left-footed dead ball set piece striker right now that you would put above Izzy Rodriguez?
In the pool, no.
Lavelle?
I guess Lavelle is the only one, and Lavelle probably would be the default.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure between coming back from injury and also wanting to see other options, Hayes took that responsibility away from her. But that's it.
Yeah. So I think Izzy Rodriguez having this sort of extra specialist quality as a dead ball set piece taker. And we know that Emma Hayes is really valuing set pieces, as she should, as is often undervalued by countries in international tournaments. I think Izzy Rodriguez's ability to hit the dead ball.
Yeah.
Also, in addition to everything you said about economy of touch, I see a pathway there.
And like Avery Patterson, she was hunting to get in the box that whole game and got a fair amount of box touches for a fullback. Again, those opportunities will not be available if she plays against Canada or against stiffer competition, but for a defender being asked to like get involved in stretch play, that's cool.
It's easy to imagine a world in which a Bello is your starter against some of the world's elite, and then if you're chasing a goal, Rodriguez is your answer off the bench.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, if you're trying to make like-for-like subs, that makes sense to me. Patterson also in that space probably exists. Lily Reel maybe a little bit less that way. But yeah, this feels like maybe the odd one out here, Giselle Thompson. I mean, she has plenty of time.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, none of these five you write off.
Yeah, exactly.
At all.
And I suspect if we were the ones overseeing it, those are probably the five we'd have in her closed pool of 28 from now.
Now that Izzy Rodriguez is here, we have very few complaints about how they're handling
really tough
fullback development at the U.S.
No, and maybe after the Canada game, we can talk about like what that closed pool, like predict that closed pool roster.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's premature to do it now.
Yeah.
Because we just haven't seen how Hayes will set up against the most important team in this set of friendlies.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Anything else? We got Euros coverage coming up.
I know.
We got so much Euros.
Yeah, we've got Euros coverage. We're going to be doing a couple of preview episodes this week, covering all four groups with special focus on who we think are the 4 or 5 likely contenders for the title. Which will be very interesting to uncover. And we'll find a way to touch on the Canada game at some point. And guess we also will have big announcements about our Patreon.
Yep, coming very shortly.
And that's mostly because we just have to finalize those details.
Correct.
Yeah, and then there's other big news afoot with the program as well. I mean, this July is always the time for big changes at XOG.
Yeah, that's true.
Our anniversary is July 21st.
Oh.
And it just happens to have been a major international tournament every single summer since we started the show. So
correct.
It's been a good time to roll out a bunch of positive changes at this time of year.
Yep. So bear with us. Stay tuned. We will have a lot of news and a lot of newness coming in your direction.
Yeah. In the meantime, if you haven't joined our Patreon, $6 a month or $60 a year gets you 4 exclusive bonus episodes every single month, as well as access to our Discord server and our semi-regular YouTube live streams. Be sure to follow us on social media at XOwnGoals. That's the letter X Own Goals. If you think we've made an own goal, drop us an email at expectedowngoals@gmail.com. That's the letter expectedowngoals@gmail.com. And as always, if you haven't done so already, follow us, rate us 5 stars, and drop a review in your podcatcher of choice. And be sure to tell all of your women's soccer-loving friends about the show if you haven't done so. We did get an email last week, an own goal directed your way, Eric. Although, as not someone who grew up in Portland, Oregon, I did my own research on this particular question. And it's an interesting one that is maybe not necessarily... Did you read this email?
I have not.
Okay.
Do you want to reveal it?
Let me pull this up. Actually, this is good. I'm glad that we're going to get your live reaction to this. So, Patreon listener Tab D wrote in, "Hey, big Thorns fan, supporter, nerd. Loved the gift of a Graphs pitch to them and can tolerate this gift also going to that other team to the north, I guess. Yeah, I've spoken like a true Thorns fan. The own goal is the underground creek below Providence Park is named Tanner Creek.
Correct.
The neighborhood, which he does not say in this email, it's the neighborhood in which
Goose
Providence Park is found is Goose Hollow.
And you know what?
Yeah.
That is absolutely correct. That is an own goal that I knew the answer to and said wrong.
Yeah, and the expansion that happened at Providence Park a few years ago is named Tanner Ridge, which actually I did not know.
I did know that too, and you know what? Makes a lot of sense when you consider the creek.
But, an understandable gaffe. It is the neighborhood through which the creek and the flows and the stadium is built, so...
I will absolutely own the own goal for using the neighborhood's name in place of the creek's name.
There you go.
The underground creek that runs under the stadium.
Which I guess, does it actually flow still? I was looking at something that said it no longer has water flowing through it anymore.
Probably so.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it isn't a tough soil to build.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, okay, that's it, guys.
That's an own goal.
And
by the way, Tab D, well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
We will be back on main feed again this week to drop in our Euros previews, and then tune in on Patreon at the end of the week to listen to our preview of the Copa America Femenina and the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. A lot of NWSL players in both of those tournaments, so a lot of good grist for the mill there.
Yeah, so much soccer.
Bye.
Bye.